The male gaze, an issue that affects everyone. The male gaze is a term that refers to the way visual arts and literature depict the world and women from a masculine, heterosexual perspective. This viewpoint tends to objectify women, presenting them as objects of male pleasure and desire. The concept was introduced by feminist film critic Laura Mulvey in her 1975 essay, Visual Pleasure in Narrative Cinema. The male gaze affects women in several ways. Objectification. Women are often reduced to their physical appearance, leading to a narrow and unrealistic portrayal of their roles and identities. This can diminish their perceived value beyond their looks. Self-esteem and body image. Constant exposure to idealized images of women can lead to body dissatisfaction and lower self-esteem, as real women might compare themselves to these unattainable standards. Professional impact. When women are viewed primarily through a lens of attractiveness, their professional capabilities and potential may be overlooked, leading to fewer opportunities and advancements in their careers. Social expectations. The male gaze can reinforce traditional gender roles and expectations, limiting the way women are perceived and treated in society. This can affect their personal relationships and societal status. Cultural perception. The pervasive nature of the male gaze in media can shape cultural norms and values, influencing how both men and women view gender roles and relationships. Historically, if you look at art, literature, and media, you'll see that women have often been portrayed through the eyes of men. If it hadn't been for feminist movements and critiques, this might have continued unchecked. Let's not forget that if women are constantly portrayed in a certain way, it becomes harder for society to see them in any other light. This impacts everything from job prospects to personal relationships.
Cases and testimonies. Male gaze on the entertainment industry. Case: Scarlett Johansson's career trajectory. Scarlett Johansson, a well-known actress, has openly discussed how she was typecast in hypersexualized roles early in her career. She reflected on how the industry viewed her primarily through a lens of physical appearance, often casting her in roles that emphasized her body over her talent. Johansson mentioned that this not only limited the diversity of roles she was offered, but also affected her public image, as audiences came to see her more as a sex symbol than as a serious actress. This objectification is a clear example of how the male gaze operates in Hollywood, shaping the opportunities available to women and influencing their career paths. The male gaze in the entertainment industry not only affects actresses' career choices, but also perpetuates stereotypes that resonate with the audience. This can lead to a narrow view of women in society, reinforcing the idea that their value lies primarily in their appearance. Advertising. Case: Dove's Real Beauty campaign. The Dove Real Beauty campaign that was launched in 2004 as a response to the pervasive portrayal of women in advertising as thin, young, and often overtly sexualized. Prior to this campaign, most beauty advertisements featured women who conformed to very specific beauty standards, perpetuating the idea that only certain body types and appearances were desirable. The campaign aimed to challenge these norms by featuring women of various body types, ages, and ethnic backgrounds, highlighting the beauty in the diversity. This campaign was groundbreaking in its time, shifting the conversation around beauty standards in advertising. It demonstrated that consumers were ready for a change, and it inspired other brands to consider more inclusive and realistic representations of women. However, the fact that such a campaign was necessary underscores how deeply ingrained the male gaze was and still is in advertising. Workplace dynamics. Case: Bias in corporate promotions. Studies and testimonies from women in various industries reveal a consistent pattern of being judged based on their appearance rather than their professional qualifications. For instance, a female employee at a tech company shared her experience of being passed over for a promotion despite her qualifications and performance, because her male colleagues viewed her as too attractive to be taken seriously in a real leadership role. She recounted how feedback focused on her looks rather than her work, which impacted her confidence and career progression. This case highlights the insidious nature of the male gaze in professional settings, where women's appearances are scrutinized more than their capabilities. It creates a professional environment where women are undervalued and underrepresented in leadership positions, further entrenching gender inequality.
We've been doing our homework and picking the brains of women in our circle to ask them about this issue. I think these stereotypes doesn't affect me personally, but I can see how my students are affected by this issue. These stereotypes are pervasive and often reinforce roles, not having in account things that are more important. For teenage girls, these stereotypes can shape their self-esteem, aspirations, even their understanding of their relationships, and potentially limiting their growth and self-expression. Like, let's say a woman has to be thin. That is a pretty famous stereotype right now, and a lot of stereotypes about women that affects us. Yes, I've definitely felt insecure or uncomfortable because of how boys look at or perceive me. It's unsettling and can make you overly self-conscious, impacting how you behave and dress, and you just want to avoid unwanted attention. Yes, I definitely felt the pressure to comfort certain beauty and behavior standards because of these influences. It often feels like there is a constant push to fit into a mold or live up to unrealistic expectations. The pressure to keep up in terms of appearance and behavior, of course, can be overwhelming. So it's like walking tightrope, trying to balance personal authenticity with society expectations, and it is exhausting trying to meet these often unsustainable standards that reinforce basically that we have to be what they want us to be or we are nothing. I think it depends of the group. Some boys are more mature than others, but when I interact with boys, I feel like there is a double standard in how we are treated. It often seems like they view me through different lenses compared to my girlfriends, and it can be pretty frustrating. It feels like there is a fine line between being respected and being objectified, and it's clear in these interactions.
Statistics in liberal and social terms. Representation in media. The USC Annenberg Inclusion Initiative conducted a study analyzing the top grossing films from 2007 to 2019. The study found that only 31% of speaking characters were women, and of these, many were depicted in a sexualized manner. For example, women were more likely than men to be shown in revealing clothing or to be partially naked. This suggests that the male gaze continues to dominate the portrayal of women in the mainstream cinema, with female characters often being reduced to their physical appearance rather than being developed as complex individuals. These statistics highlight the ongoing gender imbalance in media representation and the persistence of the male gaze in shaping how women are portrayed. This can have a profound impact on how audiences perceive women and can reinforce harmful stereotypes that limit women's roles both on and off screen. Workplace bias. A study by leanin.org and McKinsey & Company, Women in the Workplace 2022, found that women are less likely than men to be promoted to management roles. For every 100 men promoted to manager, only 87 women are promoted, and this gap is even wider for women of color. The study suggests that one reason for this disparity is the pervasive bias that values men's leadership potential more highly than women's, often because women are judged more on their appearance and traditional gender roles than on their professional skills. The statistics show that the male gaze and the gender bias have a real consequence in the workplace, limiting women's career advancement and contributing to the gender leadership gap. This not only affects individual women's careers but also perpetuates systemic inequality within organizations. Body image. The American Psychological Association, also known as APA, published research showing that women who are exposed to media emphasizing the male gaze report higher levels of body dissatisfaction and anxiety about their appearance. For example, the study found that women who frequently view fashion magazines or social media influencers that emphasize thinness and traditional beauty standards are more likely to experience negative body image. This can lead to a range of mental health issues, including eating disorders, depression, and low self-esteem. The link between media consumption and body image issues underscores the harmful effect of the male gaze on women's mental health. By constantly presenting idealized and unrealistic portrayals of women, the media contributes to a culture where women feel pressure to conform narrow beauty standards, often at the expense of their well-being. Advertising. The Gina Davis Institute on Gender Media released a report in 2020 that analyzed the portrayal of women in advertising. The report found that women in arts are 4 times more likely than men to be shown in revealing clothing and are often depicted in subordinate or passive roles. This type of representation reinforces the notion that women's value is primarily tied to their physical appearance and their ability to attract male attention.
A study published in Sex Roles in 2017 found that teenagers who are more exposed to objectification in media have higher levels of self-objectifications, which can lead to mental health issues such as depression and anxiety. The American Psychological Association has reported that sexualization in media contributes to body image problems among teenage girls. How to address this issue? Talking about the male gaze isn't a piece of cake, and stopping it also isn't. But if we put our heads together, we can make a difference. First and foremost, education is key. We have to teach young people about media literacy and the male gaze, so they might start seeing things a little bit different with a new light. This means showing them the consequences and how the male gaze shapes the way that women are portrayed, and so if we do that, we are encourage them to think critically about what they see. We also have to encourage and demand more diverse, authentic woman representation in media, social media, and in film media by hiring more female directors, writers, and producers, so the media landscape changes for the better. Action speaks louder than the words. In this case, producing content that reflects woman experience will speak a lot of volume. In addition, speaking about gender roles and self-esteem perception about women related with the male gaze can help. So sharing people's personal stories can be a very powerful tool to raise awareness and promoting change.
Addressing this issue involves promoting more realistic representations of women in media, encouraging critical consumption of media content, and supporting women in leadership and creative roles.